Have you ever felt a sudden chill while walking through a dark hallway alone in your quiet house? You turn around quickly, but the corridor is empty and there is absolutely nothing there to be found. This sensation is known as the sense-presence effect, and it is a universal part of human experience. Scientists believe that this feeling is a survival mechanism that evolved to protect our ancestors from hidden predators. Your brain is constantly scanning the environment for patterns, and it would rather see a ghost than miss. It is perfectly normal to feel watched because your nervous system is simply hypervigilant in the deep shadows. This psychological phenomenon is deeply rooted in our biology and the way we process sensory information at night. To understand why this happens, we must explore the architecture of the human mind and our ancient history. The primary culprit behind this feeling is a small almond-shaped structure in your brain called the amygdala now. It serves as your internal alarm system and is responsible for triggering the fight or flight response daily. When you are in the dark, your primary sense of sight is significantly reduced or even completely lost. The amygdala compensates by increasing your sensitivity to sound and touch and the subtle movement of the air. This state of hyperarousal makes your brain more likely to interpret random environmental noise as a potential threat. You're essentially living in a state of high-stakes paranoia that kept your ancestors alive in the wild. If you felt like you were being watched, you stayed alert and survived to pass on your genes. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine that is specifically tuned to detect the presence of other living beings. This biological software is so powerful that it often finds faces and figures where they do not actually. This phenomenon is called pareidolia, and it explains why we see shapes in the clouds or the moon. In the dark, the brain has very little visual data to work with, so it starts to speculate. A pile of clothes on a chair becomes a crouching figure because your brain fills in the gaps. It is better for your survival to misidentify a chair as a person than the other way around. This false positive is a small price to pay for the safety of avoiding a real hidden predator. There is also a fascinating neurological condition known as the third man factor, experienced by people in extreme. Mountain climbers and sailors often report a vivid sense of a companion following them during moments of great. Researchers believe that under intense stress, the brain can lose track of where the physical body actually ends. This results in the mind projecting its own internal sense of self onto the external environment around it. You literally perceive your own presence as if it were another person standing just outside your field of. This creates a powerful feeling of being watched by someone who is invisible but very close to you. It is a trick of the mind that occurs when the boundaries of our consciousness begin to blur. Modern architecture and technology have also contributed to this feeling of being watched by an unseen presence tonight. Houses are full of infrasound, which is a low-frequency sound that is below the threshold of human hearing. Studies have shown that infrasound can cause feelings of anxiety and sorrow and a sense of being watched. These vibrations are often produced by old pipes and ventilation systems, or even wind blowing through narrow urban. Even if you cannot hear the sound, your body can still feel the physical pressure of the vibrations. This subtle sensory input can trigger the amygdala and make you feel like something is lurking in there. Our modern world is full of invisible forces that keep our ancient survival instincts on a permanent hair trigger. The concept of the eyes of the heart is found in many ancient cultures that describe the soul. They believe that we possess a spiritual sense that allows us to perceive things that the eyes cannot. This intuition is often dismissed by modern science as mere superstition or a lack of proper rational thinking. However, many people report a specific physical sensation in the back of their necks when they are observed. This is often referred to as the psychic staring effect, and it has been studied by many researchers. While the results are controversial, the feeling remains one of the most common human experiences in the dark. It suggests that our connection to the environment is much more complex than our five senses can describe. If we look back 300,000 years, our ancestors lived in a world dominated by nocturnal hunters. Large cats and wolves were perfectly adapted to hunt in the pitch blackness where humans were effectively blind. Survival depended on the ability to detect a predator before it made its final and fatal silent strike. The feeling of being watched was likely a sophisticated sensory integration that prioritized the detection of biological heat. Even a small change in the infrared radiation of the room could be picked up by your skin. This ancient radar is still functioning deep within your brain, even though the lions are long gone now. You are a walking relic of a time when the dark was the most dangerous place on Earth. The uncanny valley is another psychological concept that explains why the dark feels so inherently threatening to us. We are disturbed by things that look almost human, but have something slightly wrong or unnatural about their appearance. Shadows often create these distorted human shapes that trigger a deep sense of revulsion and fear in the. Our brains are hardwired to avoid anything that looks diseased or dead or fundamentally alien to our nature. In the dark, a simple coat, rack, can easily transform into a tall and strangely elongated human figure. This triggers the uncanny valley response and makes your heart race as you try to make sense of it. Your brain is trying to categorize the shape while your body is already preparing to run for safety. There's also a theory that we are sensitive to the magnetic field produced by other living beings. Every human heart and brain generates a subtle electromagnetic field that can be detected by very sensitive modern. Some researchers believe that our bodies can sense these fields even when we cannot see the person in. This would mean that being watched is not a psychic phenomenon, but a physical interaction of overlapping energy. When someone focuses their attention on you, their brain activity changes and their electromagnetic field may shift slightly. Your own nervous system might be tuned to pick up these tiny fluctuations as a form of communication. This would explain why the feeling is so persistent across all cultures and all periods of human history. We must also consider the role of the God spot in the temporal lobe of the human. This area of the brain is associated with religious experiences and the sense of a divine or presence. Stimulation of this area during laboratory experiments has caused people to report seeing spirits or feeling a God. It is possible that the darkness itself acts as a form of sensory deprivation that triggers this area. When the world goes quiet, the brain begins to generate its own internal reality to fill the void. This can lead to the feeling that you are not alone in the room with your own. The sense of a presence may be the brain's way of keeping itself company in the lonely dark. In many traditional folklore stories, the night is populated by creatures that feed on human fear and anxiety. From the shadow people of modern urban legends to the jinn of the ancient Middle Eastern desert myths. These stories serve as a cultural projection of the very real psychological feeling of being watched in the. They give a name and a face to the invisible dread that haunts our bedrooms and our hallways. By turning the feeling into a story, we are attempting to gain some measure of control over it. If we can name the monster, we can find a way to protect ourselves from its mysterious power. These myths are the externalization of the ancient alarm systems that are built into our very DNA today. The phenomenon of sleep paralysis often includes the vivid hallucination of a shadowy figure standing over the sleeper. This occurs when the brain wakes up before the body has been released from its natural nighttime paralysis. The mind is in a dream state while the eyes are open and looking at the real room. This creates a terrifying blend of reality and imagination, where a shadow becomes a very real and malevolent. People describe a heavy pressure on their chest and the absolute certainty that something evil is watching them. This is perhaps the most extreme version of the sensed presence effect that a human can ever experience. It shows how the brain can create a fully realized person from nothing but fear and rapid eye. Our ancestors also lived in large communal groups where being alone was a death sentence for an individual. The feeling of being watched might be a social instinct that craves the presence of the rest tribe. When we are alone in the dark, our brain signals that we are vulnerable and in need protection. The sensation of another person nearby may be a distorted way of fulfilling that deep evolutionary social need. We want to be watched because being watched means that we are not forgotten by our fellow humans. However, in the silence of the night, this instinct can easily turn into a source of deep terror. We are a social species that is forced to face the void of the night in total isolation. The architecture of your eyes also plays a role in why the shadows seem to move and shift. Your peripheral vision is much better at detecting motion and light than your central vision is in the. This is because the edges of your retina are packed with rods, which are sensitive to low light. When you look directly at a shadow, it seems to stay still and look like a normal object. But when you look away, the rods in your peripheral vision pick up subtle changes in the light. This creates the illusion that something just moved in the corner of your eye while you were looking. You turn your head, but the movement is gone because you are now using your less sensitive cones. The feeling of being watched is also linked to the concept of agent detection in the human mind. We are biased toward assuming that things happen because of the intentional actions of a living conscious agent. If a floorboard creaks, we don't think of temperature changes, we think of someone stepping on the wood. This bias was essential for survival because it assumed that every noise was a potential enemy or predator. We live in a world of ghosts because our brains are designed to find agents in every shadow. It is an evolutionary better safe than sorry strategy that has been running for millions of years now. You are the descendant of people who were afraid of the dark and lived to tell about. Modern science is also investigating the role of dopamine in how we perceive the presence of others around. High levels of dopamine can make the brain more likely to find significance in random noise and shapes. This can lead to an increased frequency of the sense-presence effect in people who are highly stressed. The brain becomes too good at finding patterns and starts to create them out of thin air tonight. This shows that the feeling of being watched is a chemical state as much as it is psychological. Your internal chemistry determines how much of the invisible world you are able to perceive in the dark. We are all living in slightly different versions of reality based on our own unique brain chemistry. The stars and the moon also play a role in the intensity of our nighttime fears and feelings. On a moonless night, the darkness is absolute, and the sense of being watched is often much more. The lack of visual landmarks forces the brain to rely entirely on its own internal map of reality. This is when the imagination is most active and the ghosts of the mind are most likely. We are a species that was born under the stars, and we are still afraid of the void. The night is a reminder of the time before we mastered fire and light and moved into cities. It is a return to our original state of being small and vulnerable and very much alone. You are never truly alone in the dark because you bring your entire evolutionary history with you tonight. Every fear and every instinct that kept your ancestors alive is still pulsing through your nervous system now. The feeling of being watched is a gift from the past that ensures you stay alert and safe. It is a reminder that you are a part of a long line of survivors who respected night. Next time you feel that chill in the hallway, do not be afraid of the unseen visitor nearby. Smile at the darkness because it is just your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. You are the master of the light, but the dark will always belong to your ancient primal. We have built a world of light, but we can never truly escape the shadows of our own. The feeling of being watched is the bridge between our modern lives and our wild and ancient past. It is a testament to the power of the human mind to create meaning in the empty void. We are the dreamers and the hunters and the watchers in the long and silent night of time. Embrace the mystery of the dark and the strange sensations it brings to your heart and your mind. You are a biological masterpiece of survival, and the dark is simply the stage for your ancient story. The feeling of being watched is just the universe reminding you that you are still very much